Brian, it's Michael and Don. How you doing?
Hey, guys.
Is David Blatt's job in jeopardy if they don't win this series?
Isn't it so interesting how you asked that question? A lot of people have asked you that question on a regular basis, and it's a crazy question to ask for somebody who's coached for 1 year and is in the championship round. Can you ever remember another coach where that question was asked? I mean, there have been times when coaches would leave a job after leading a team to a championship round. Sometimes even coaches have been fired, but after 1 year, and I think, I think it's interesting that you're asking it and that it's asked all over the country. The Cavs do not want to do anything there. They're happy with him. If LeBron wants to make a move, it will be done. But I don't think it's in his constitution to do that. I think there's so many more pressing matters for the Cavs to handle this offseason. They actually have as many as 10 free agents on this roster. There's lots for them to handle there. I think also LeBron knows that if it were to go south or there wouldn't be improvement next year, there's a replacement sitting there on the bench in Tyronn Lue. So I do think it's interesting that you're asking. I think that's an indication of his status, but I don't think any move will happen.
And I mean, you know why I'm asking. LeBron has shown almost public disdain for him, I think, in the body language and the way he's interacted with him, and during the playoffs, how he said, I changed the play and this and that. It just seems to me that LeBron, who is not good at hiding his feelings, not hiding his feelings about David Blatt.
No, I think LeBron is good at hiding his feelings. I think he chooses not to in this case.
Gotcha. So then the question's a valid one.
I think it's a valid one. I don't think it's going to happen.
Okay.
But but the fact that it's even a valid question, I think, speaks to how unusual of a situation it is.
Do you think he'll win the MVP?
I don't know. I know there's a groundswell amongst the media for it. I also know that no matter what he says, he would take some sort of secret pride in it. Because it's sort of a way to say, listen, I may be 2-4 in the finals, but you can't blame me. Also, he's a history buff for the NBA, and so that was like almost an accomplishment. And also, he feels like he should have been the MVP in the regular season. And so he could say to Steph Curry, you may have got the championship, and but I still got this. But you will not see him coming out and embracing it. I do think he could win it. But you know what? To ask that question is a little bit unfair, because what if Steph Curry comes out and has a 45-point game tonight, which could well happen? It's really not fair to ask until the complete body of work is done.
Now, you had mentioned about not winning the MVP of the season. He has said that something was driving him through these playoffs. Is that it?
I suspect that's it, but my attempts to find out have been unsuccessful.
Is LeBron sick of J.R. Smith, or does he actually like J.R. Smith?
He loves playing with him. I think the issue is, if you're relying on JR to be your second or third best player, it's a little bit harder to swallow than when he's your fifth or sixth best player. When the Cavs are at full strength, he's the fifth or sixth best player, and when he has a great game 1 out of every 4 or 5 games, it's seen as a luxury. When you're relying on him and the other team can, basically what happened in the second half of Game 5 was the Warriors really clamped down on him, wouldn't even let him get the ball, and you can't do that when you're also trying to defend Kevin Love and Kyrie Irving. And so I think he's a great guy to have on your team when you're not relying on him, as Knicks fans can certainly understand.
See, I think the $64,000 question in this whole thing is, how do you keep LeBron fresh for the fourth quarter without getting blown out in the first 3? And you've seen the theme here where he and his teammates are just spent by the time they get to the fourth. What are some of the ways they can avoid that trap again? Is there a way?
Yeah, it's a self-perpetuating problem, because if you rely so heavily on LeBron when he's on the court, it makes you less able to cope when he's off of it. And one of the things that I saw in the second half of Game 5, when it really got under the knife, there were some guys on the Cavs team who didn't even want to touch the ball. Matthew Dellavedova was treating it like it was a hot potato. And Iman Shumpert, and I know he's banged up with his shoulder, but he blew 2 layups and was so spooked about shooting a layup that at one point he had a breakaway layup and turned around and threw the ball into traffic to Tristan Thompson, who you should never throw the ball to unless he's standing by himself under the basket or he just got a rebound. And so I think some of the Cavs have been lulled into a let LeBron do all the work, and that's, that's not a surprise, because if it wasn't letting LeBron do all the work the whole season, it was let Kyrie or Kevin Love do the work. So I think one thing that David Blatt can definitely do is he can be a little bit smarter about who he has out there when LeBron isn't. The one guy I think he needs to have out there is Timo Mozgov, as well as we're talking about former Knicks, because he's a guy who's not afraid, and you can actually throw him the ball and let him go to work. And he's a good free throw shooter, so he can get fouled and stuff like that. But I don't think there's a good answer. It's not like there's a secret to be unlocked that's all of a sudden going to have the Cavs figure it out.
We're talking with Brian Windhorst of ESPN right here on the Michael Kay Show. And Brian, you've known LeBron since high school, and Don and I have talked about this a lot. And I'm a big LeBron fan, and I see very little that he does wrong. But I wonder why the other night after Game 5, he felt it necessary to say he's the best player in the world when that wasn't even the question that was asked. Somehow he got around to it. It seemed like it was something that he wanted to say. What do you read into that, knowing him so well?
I think he is struggling with the fact that he doesn't think his team's going to win. He's the underdog. You think about it, he hasn't been the underdog since 2008 when he played the Celtics. When the Celtics won the title that year, he took that game to 7. Took that series to 7 games. He hasn't been the underdog very often in his life, and he knows he's the underdog in this series, and I think he's uncomfortable with it. He's having difficulty coping, and you've seen him come out with arrogance, which is not normally part of his persona, at least publicly. And, he did it again when he didn't like the idea. He didn't like hearing that the Warriors were being credited with letting him get his points.
Right.
Earlier in the series, he said, "They didn't let me get 40. I got 40." So I think it's a bit of a way of like a defense mechanism. Him saying, even to himself, "We may not win this series, but it ain't going to be because of me."
Now, I know it's all about winning. That's all anybody throws out. Oh, Jordan was 6 for 6, yada, yada, yada. But when you really look at it, Brian, and as Michael said, you followed him his entire career. Win or lose tonight, or lose this series, don't you think that what he's had to accomplish here would be equal to any championship he's ever won?
Yeah, if they had won this, if they win this, it would be the greatest accomplishment of his career. And actually having a 2-1 lead in this series is one of the great accomplishments of his career. The team he's playing is one of the best teams we've seen in the NBA in the last 5 or 6 years. And LeBron should know, because he's been on most of the best teams in the last 5 or 6 years. And to deal with the loss of 2 all-star level players in the playoffs, not in January where you have a chance to recover at the trade deadline or learn how to play without them, to totally rejigger your team 2 times through the middle of the playoffs, including in the middle of the finals, and to be so competitive, to take, basically the 3 of these games right down to the wire. It is an incredible accomplishment. And if you want to horse with him with that 2-4 record, obviously you can do that. But if you know the game and appreciate the game, you don't appreciate what he's gone through to get this team here this year, then really you're not even really worth arguing with.
I'm going to take away your journalism badge for a second. I'm going to ask you from the gut, do you think the Cavaliers win tonight?
I think that they were emotionally devastated after Game 5. So I question whether they'll be able to summon it up. I really do.
Good stuff, Brian. Thank you so much. Enjoy the game.
Take care, guys.
Thank you.